Welcome back, friends. Today we're taking a look not only at the energies connected to the new moon, but the cosmic energies that are shining in up through the next few weeks as we transition towards the full moon happening in just a few weeks, which of course at that point I'll be chiming in again with the full moon video. But let's go ahead and take a look at some of these energies that are coming in now. This new moon is particularly significant because while it is the last new moon of 2024, it is the new moon that is bringing us into the beginning of the new year. So it's under the energy of the new moon in Capricorn that we're all going to be setting our New Year's resolutions, our intentions for the year ahead. But here I also want to remind us that this is also the first new moon of winter. We just had the winter solstice last week. So this new moon is establishing the energetic frequencies, vibration, and themes that we are going to be moving throughout the entire season of winter. Since this is the new moon that we're going to be under the influence of as we're setting our New Year's resolutions, I also want to remind us that each new moon has ultimately a larger 6-month cycle attached to it. And that's because with each new moon, 6 months later, you have the full moon in the same sign, which is a culminating cycle of the energies that you had intended to set in motion during the new moon. So this new moon that we have happening in Capricorn on December 30th, the actual new moon is at 5:26 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the 30th. That's going to be leading us through the energies of winter regarding your intentions that you're setting for this month, for the season of winter, for the year ahead, is going to have a tendency to come full circle into some type of manifested expression when the full moon happens in Capricorn, which will be around the summer solstice. This year, it's happening on June 11th. Another cool thing that we have going on with this new moon is that this is the first new moon happening in the sign of Capricorn since Pluto's ingress into Aquarius. Just this in and of itself is bringing us into a cycle of integration because for the past 16 years, the new moons and the full moons in Capricorn have been somehow influenced by Pluto energies because Pluto has been in the sign of Capricorn since 2008. That in and of itself has brought us all collectively through a 16-year cycle of development and transformation. So this new moon happening in Capricorn without Pluto being in Capricorn, I'm interpreting intuitively as a process of integration that we're all experiencing now. And then in January, when we have the new moon in Aquarius, this will be a big activation in the Aquarian energy. So it's like a catalyst for us to expand into taking everything that we've cultivated and developed and transformed while Pluto was in Capricorn and now expressing it with empowerment, with mastery in the areas that are connected to the Aquarius sector of your chart. If you're following my videos, you're going to be learning about how to locate where the new moons and full moons and the different transits throughout the year are activating your chart. Listening to what I'm talking about today about what's going on with the cosmic weather and aligning that with how that is lining up with your personal chart can give you an added layer of clarity, and using that information to further inform and support and empower your personal goals, which is really the whole intention of the teaching component behind these videos that I create with all of you. And just one more thing I'm going to put out there before we get into the details of the astrology. I do offer what I call life path readings, which include astrology. The beginning of each year is a great time to have a life path reading. Your birthday is a great time to have a life path reading because it's your personal new year. So if you'd like to book a reading with me, just take a peek at the link in the description box below, and I'm happy to get you set up with a session with me. Okay, on to the details here. On a big picture level, the main element that is prominent with this full moon is the fire element. And that means that we have several planets in fire signs. And fire is expansive. It is purifying. Fire is connected to our passions, our enthusiasms. So while we do have planets retrograde right now that make it not necessarily conducive to fully leaping into manifestation action, this is a time where we're becoming more clearly aware of what our deep soul passions are. And taking some time for just some simple introspection, self-reflection, contemplation, awareness, meditation should be enough to help you to really connect with, what do I feel most inspired to experience this year? Where do I feel most passionate about contributing my gifts to life this year? And let your New Year's resolutions be connected to those themes. First thing I'm going to talk about, the moon in Capricorn. For each new moon, the sun and the moon are together, conjunct, aligned. So this is a time where we have a nice balance with the yin and yang within us, the solar and the lunar within us, the feminine and the masculine within us, which is why it's a really great time to set personal intentions, because we have that energy on our side to support that growth and expansion. Capricorn is industrious energy. It's self-responsibility. It's all about getting things done. It's earth energy. It's our own self-reliance and being empowered in our self-reliance. So these themes are going to be showing up for you based specifically on what sector of the sky it is in for you. The moon right now is out of bounds. When the moon or a planet is out of bounds, it means that it is traveling outside of its normal orbit on the ecliptic plane. And when that happens, it brings eccentricities about in regard to that planet, or in this case, the moon. So the moon out of bounds in Capricorn can beneficially impact us in a way that we feel a little bit more motivated to take care of foundational details that need taken care of to establish the foundation for growth that we do need. Capricorn is really great for taking care of any administrative type of work. It's great for long-term planning. It's great for having an energy of perseverance, stick-to-itiveness, determination, slow and steady, pacing wins the race type of vibe. And so with the moon out of bounds, we likely are feeling naturally more inspired to be steadily and surely plotting our pathway forward for the year ahead right now. Again, it's not the time of leaping into action. It's a time of getting clear and establishing some type of plan or strategy for yourself. Because Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, that makes Saturn the ruler of this new moon, which further brings in elements that are connected to strategies, structures, plans, progress. Saturn is in Pisces right now. Pisces is the archetype of the mystic and is connected to the spiritual dimensions of life. It's also connected to the creative dimensions of life. Saturn in Pisces on the highest vibrational octave is awakening our awareness to our self-responsibility regarding our true spiritual path, our true soul's calling, which is coming in other ways with what's going on with Neptune, which I'm also going to talk about in a few minutes here. The moon is connecting to Saturn in a sextile aspect. Sextile aspects are opportunistic aspects that require us to be willing to put effort in the direction of our growth in order to access that energy. Now, this sextile aspect from the moon to Saturn is actually the only direct aspect to the new moon, but there's a lot of other things going on in the mix here that I'm going to start talking about now, and I am going to begin with Saturn since the moon is sextiling Saturn. Now we're looking at what else is going on with Saturn. Saturn is squaring both Jupiter, which is in Sagittarius now. Saturn is also squaring Jupiter, which is in Gemini. And Jupiter and Mercury are opposite of each other in what's called a mutual reception. And that's because Mercury is in the sign that rules Jupiter, and Jupiter is in the sign that rules Mercury. So this dynamic polarity of Jupiter and Mercury opposing each other, both of these have to do with themes of seeking truth, wanting to know the truth, wanting to learn the truth, and wanting to tell the truth. Telling the truth starts with yourself. So we can say, with both of these planets squaring Saturn in Pisces, the truth that we're becoming aware of within ourselves is connected to what our true soul inspiration is at this time in our life, and our responsibility to explore that and grow in the direction of that. And that's because Sagittarius is the energy of the truth seeker, the philosopher, the adventurer. Mercury is the planet that is connected to thinking, learning, discovering, sharing ideas, intellectualizing, and teaching. Then on the opposite end of the dynamic polarity, we have Jupiter, the planet of growth, expansion, which is also connected to themes of truth, adventuring, exploring, discovering philosophies of life. In the sign of Gemini, which is the curiosity seeker, the messenger. Again, both of these planets squaring Saturn in Pisces. Squares are like, I call them checkpoints a lot. They're considered to be challenging aspects, which in shamanic astrology, we can see them as being activation structures and are meant to activate our creative abilities, our creative problem solving abilities. Like, how do I find my way around this rock? Okay? So, how do we be seekers and adventurers of truth in ways that are calling us to look beyond our little circle of life into more of a broader, more worldly way, and allow that to inspire growth in the direction of what our spiritual inspirations are at this time? Mercury is also squaring Neptune, which is in Pisces, and Neptune is the natural ruler of Pisces. So there's all those same things that I just spoke of regarding Pisces and being connected to the mystical, spiritual, creative, intuitive aspects of life. Neptune structures are connected to navigating through life with being willing to go with the flow and not forcing things. So the square between Neptune and Mercury in Sagittarius can be actually a very delightful energy of allowing your mind to be fluid in what it's discovering in the realm of whatever information you're interested and curious to learn more about. This can be a time where you start out with learning one thing and then, oh, that leads you to another thing and another thing. And somehow it all loops back around to give you the insight, the inspiration, the answer you've been looking for. So being willing to be fluid during this first lunation of the season of winter is a really good idea. Now, this is also reminding me that wintertime is naturally the time of going within, nesting, healing, renewing, rejuvenating, tending to our self-care and our self-study, just learning things that you're interested in that will ultimately inform the direction you seek. So Neptune trining Mars in Leo retrograde and Mars being out of bounds. Mars is the warrior, action oriented planet. It's how we take action in our life. Leo is fire energy. It's expansive energy. It's empowered when it's leading in its self leadership with creative self expression. And that's what Mars would be loving to be doing right now, extremely so, or in an exaggerated way because it's also out of bounds. However, it's retrograde. So that means that the angst of Mars retrograde in Leo can be, I really want to be raring to get going on this thing, on this project, on this idea I have, on this trip I want to take. But I still have some things to take care of, or the timing is not now. So the trine with Neptune can actually soften that angst and nudge our remembrance on the wisdom of going with the flow. There's two other things connected to this that are really important, I feel. One, and this is one that a lot of astrologers are talking about right now, that retrograde Mars in Leo that's out of bounds is opposite of Pluto that just recently went into Aquarius on November 19th. Pluto in Aquarius wants to evolutionize, transform, and empower how we are showing up in our radiance regarding our social circles, our groups of friends, however it is that we feel called to support humanitarian efforts in life, however it is that we want to be a part of a collective that is rising into new leading edge ways of being, because these are Aquarian themes, and Mars would love to just be right there showing up right now. But retrograde, again, it creates a dynamic kind of push-pull polarity, which, because Mars is retrograde, this dynamic can cause discord. There can be angry outbursts. So this is a time to be really mindful and aware and practice thinking before you speak. Neptune is conjunct the north node of the moon in Aries. Collectively speaking, the north node of the moon in Aries has been inspiring us all for the past 18 months to really find empowered self leadership on our own individual path. Now, the energies of the North Node are intensifying now because the nodes are getting ready to shift their axis as we are coming into mid-January. The nodes of the moon have been on the Aries Libra axis for the past 18 months. Now they're going to be moving into the Pisces Virgo axis as we're coming into mid-January. So now really is like a strong time of really paying attention to what your inner inclinations, your inner soul nudges are, and not ignoring those things. Now is the time where we're doing a little calibration along those lines. Once the nodes shift, it's going to be a completely different energy, which I will, of course, be coming on and talking about as we're getting closer to that. But just know that right now is the time to establish what your commitments are for your path, at least for the next few months, at least for the next year. But honestly, this cycle that's happening with the nodes takes 18 years to come around again. Aries, being the first sign of the zodiac, represents a brand new cycle of experience on a bigger picture level collectively, which is another oomph of empowered self-leadership on our own unique individual path. Once we get into the end of February, Mars will be direct then, and that's really going to be the time where we feel like we can be in full steam manifestation mode. So this next 6 to 8 weeks is more about the internal planning stages, which honestly is directly aligned with where we are in the natural cycles and seasons of nature in wintertime anyway. So tap into the wisdom of going with the flow of that, and don't feel like you have to push the river. Pushing the river, honestly, trying to force things to change before the timing is aligned is only going to set you back and cause difficulties to navigate or obstacles to work around. Another cool thing that we have going on is Chiron goes direct in Aries on December 29th. It's been retrograde since the end of July. Chiron represents our sacred wound. And so it represents our healing journey ultimately. When Chiron is retrograde, it brings us into an introspective time of self-discovery regarding our wounds, our triggers, and where we need healing. And when Chiron is direct, it can be more of an active time of being actively engaged on your healing journey and even experiencing healing and feeling like you have achieved healing with some of the wounds that you've been aware of and working on. Lastly, before we get into the cards, I'm just going to mention that we also have Uranus and Taurus squaring Venus in Aquarius. Uranus is considered to be the higher octave of Mercury. So it's higher level awarenesses. It can be sudden epiphanies of awarenesses. It also is a facilitator of change. And when Uranus is active with an aspect, a transit it can bring unexpected developments and changes. So, with Uranus squaring Venus in Aquarius, Venus can be about relationship, but Aquarius is more about the collective energy. So, there can be a sudden inspiration for you to make some changes with things that are connected to social connections, groups of friends, star tribe, soul tribe, community. To me, it feels like that's what's going to be coming up for a lot of us, especially those of us that don't feel that we have positive community connections and support that we need. This aspect that is happening with Uranus squaring Venus can really support us in having unexpected opportunities to connect with people that are like-minded, that are on our vibe, that do get us, that we do feel inspired to make deeper connections with. So even though it's a square, which can be a challenge, it feels like a positive opportunity to make a quantum leap in honing, cultivating, developing positive, supportive community in whatever ways you personally feel needed. And you could look at the sector of your chart that Aquarius is in to know the nature of the community that can be enhanced now. Okay, I'm going to select 3 tarot cards for a little collective reading for us to all go into the new year with all of this astrological information in mind. I got out my Egyptian tarot deck, which I got a few years ago in Egypt. And I like it just because it just feels like it hits on like a deeper esoteric level for some reason. So I'm shuffling the cards right now, and I'm just going to select 3, and I'll read them in a synergistic type of way for a collective message for all of us. Of course, if you would like a personal reading in regard to how you can move into the new year being tapped into your full potential, seizing the moment of the best opportunities for you based on your natal chart, just reach out and book a reading with me. I do get pretty booked up, and so it's best to book ahead of time. I am too booked to take walk-in clients at my center. For those of you who might be visiting Sedona sometime in this coming year, reach out way ahead of time to book with me. I love seeing people in person when possible. However, I do offer video chat sessions virtually, and we can do that from your location on the globe. Okay, let me just go ahead and select 3 cards here. Here's 1, 2, and 3. Here we have the Discoverer, which is connected to the planet Mercury, which we talked about, and it's associated with the number 59, which in numerology would be a 14, which would be a 5. 5s in the tarot are connected to creativity, innovation, imagination, and inventiveness. So it feels perfectly suited that it's connected to the Discovery card. And with Mercury being a component here, it's discovery through our mind. So this is very connected to what I already talked about with that opposition between Jupiter and Mercury. Okay. And then foresight, contemplate. What does foresight mean to you? What does it mean to you to have foresight? To me, it means being conscious and aware of what your guidance is telling you about the now moment. You're not just haphazardly bouncing off the walls in life. You're being conscious and deliberate with awareness. This card is associated with Neptune, so spiritual foresight. Is what I'm doing aligned with my true soul calling or my spiritual inspiration, as an example. And then this card is assigned to the number 52, which would be a 7 in numerology. 7 is the number that is assigned to Neptune themes. It's anything connected to mystical, magical, occult, esoteric ideas. And in the tarot, 7 is the number of self-chosen change. It's not change in life outside of us that we don't have control over, which would be like the Tower card. So we're using our insight and our foresight in regard to our sense of soul calling, soul-centered inspiration, and allowing ourselves to make little subtle modification adjustments along the way to fine-tune our alignment with that path. And then the last card is the Emperor, which is assigned to Uranus. And we already talked about Uranus because that's in the mix for us right now with what I was speaking of with our more collective type of relationships. The Emperor in the tarot represents empowered self mastery, especially in alignment with manifestation goals. It's being an overseer, which is connected to that foresight card, an overseer and a deliberate creator manifester of our life, not only in the right now, but aligning the right now with what a bigger picture growth goal is. So I know that this is a lot. We've got some intense energy going on, definitely igniting huge energies that support ultimately big new beginnings for us. All we have to do is take the time to really deliberately tune in, tap in, feel into what is my soul desire to experience, use the wisdom and intelligence of the mind to carry forward with the plan of that. I'm going to be coming back on soon. Once again, if you got something out of this video, if you like this content, please do take a moment to subscribe. It really does help the growth of my channel and enables me to continue to keep making these videos for all of you. All my love, guys. Blessings. Namaste. And I'll see you in the next one.